Welcome back to Crafting with Kimberly. I'm Kimberly Keneally, and for this month, it's Thanksgiving, we're going to be making wooden turkeys. This is a fun addition to your holiday table or on your wall, just some decor. Lots of fun, really easy to do, even a great project to do the day of Thanksgiving with a little bit of prep. It'll keep people busy for a while. So let's turn the camera around and get started. Here are the supplies that we're going to use. A block of wood. Many of your home stores like Lowe's or Home Depot will have scraps of wood. You can ask them if you could either purchase them or have them. Or you could buy, if you want to make a lot of these, buy a big 2x4, have them cut it up in sizes if you have any scrap wood around your house. So it doesn't really matter what type of wood. I'm just using some pieces of scrap wood that I was able to acquire. So piece of wood. I am using for the head and neck, I am using a paint stirrer. So many of the stores will give you these for free if you ask for them. I got mine at Walmart, so thank you for that. Depending on how tall you want your turkey, I'm going to do mine so it's a wider turkey instead of having it be vertical. But you can go either way. So this is going to become the head and the neck. So if you wanted to go lengthwise vertically for the turkey, you would need to cut it up. I think about 2 inches off the top of the turkey is a good height. You don't really want it down here. You do want it above the turkey. I think that's aesthetically better. So I'm going there. So you would go to wherever size you would want, draw a line, and then cut your paint stir. I'm personally going to go the widthwise because I want a real nice fat turkey. So then you would lay it here and give it a measure, and then you could cut here. So then after you've cut your sticks, I just used, a very light, tiny little saw to be able to do it. You might be able to do it with a box cutter if you just kind of kept scoring. If you didn't have a little saw that you could use, you could try to do a box cutter. Scissors are not going to do it, so either an X-Acto knife or a box cutter, and just keep scoring it until you're able to cut it. But this, again, I'm using this part because you can see it looks like a neck, a head and a neck, so I'm going to use this part. You then have these pieces left over. These could become your feathers if you want fatter feathers to have that kind of a look. Or I am choosing to use craft sticks. Craft sticks come in all sorts of different sizes. I'm using a wider one. These were supposed to be about 1.5 inches from what the website had said, 1.5 inches to 2 inches. I got these on Amazon. These, as you can see, are not 2 inches or even 1.5 inches, but I'm going to still use them anyway because they're still going to work. So craft sticks. So again, you either have your paint stir or your craft sticks to use as feathers. If you choose for decorations for your feathers, you can either paint them. You can use scrapbook paper, multiple different colors of scrapbook paper. The nice thing are those pads of scrapbook paper that you can buy because they have all sorts of coordinated colors with them. So once you choose your color scheme, you have all sorts of different papers to choose from. I'm using a bunch of different, I think there's like 5 different papers that I'm going to use. They're all coordinated in color, so they will work, but they are going to be different patterns. If you want the same pattern, use the same pattern. If you don't want to use scrapbook paper, you can paint them with any kind of colors of paint that you want. You can have them all be the same color, different colors. You can also use patterned washi tape to make patterns on there as well. So anything you really want to decorate your stick with, the better. I'm using acrylic paint. I'm using brown for my turkey base. If you wanted to stain your turkey, you could do that. That gives it a different look, depending on what the type of wood that you have. This is untreated wood. This is one coat of the brown paint. Now, if you do not prime your wood, wood is very porous, so it's going to suck that acrylic paint right in. But I liked that look. I liked how it shows the grains of the wood, and it's not that dark. It almost looks like feathers to me. So I particularly like that. If you don't like that, you can coat. This is 2 coats painted with the acrylic paint. So then you don't have the show through. You can also prime your wood. Get a piece of, wood, prime it with the white prime, and then your color would be even darker than that. But I like the way this light color looks, so I'm gonna go with that. And depending on your wood and the wood grain, this one you can see before it was painted, this has a very strong grain to it. So that is the same type of wood that this was, so it's going to give me this look. The other piece of wood, it's a much smoother piece of wood, so I'm not quite sure how that's going to take the paint. I think it's going to be a lot darker with this paint on it. It won't give the variegated look. So between the two. Okay, so let's get started. I have some paint in my paint tray. I'm just going to use the foam brush, which coats really well. I'm just going to put some of that on there. The foam brush is nice because this wood has not been sanded, again, or treated in any way. And this was scrap wood that I received a donation of. There are a lot of nicks and crannies and grooves. So the nice thing with the foam brush is you can really push very well to get into those nooks and crannies. Because you can see, like, there's a little hole right there that the paint didn't get into, so I can just kind of push it in there. So you can see that's a nice coverage of that. What I would do is, when you're doing this project, if you're at home, you have all the time in the world, to paint it, then come back to it if you want. In class, we have an hour and a half to be able to do this. So for that purpose, because I'm teaching this for class, I'm going to tell everybody, well, paint your block of wood first, so you have the ability to have it dry when we have to go do the other things. If you're at home, you can paint whatever you want to paint first, because you have time. So I'm just coating all of this over. I did one side already. Now I'm going to paint the sides. And you just have to push in there. You can see how quickly this paints up. I'm not going to paint my bottom. Just want to get into those little digs and nooks and crannies that there are. So now you can see I have my wood painted on all sides. So I'm going to set that aside and just let that dry. I'm going to take the paint stirrer that I had previously cut and paint that. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to paint that brown. This one, because it is sticking up above the wood, I am going to paint both sides. If you did not want to paint this, again, you could cover this with scrapbook paper. You can color it with markers. depends. You can do whatever, really do whatever you want. But I am going to paint both sides of this with the acrylic paint. Technically, I wouldn't need to paint down in this area because that's going to be glued onto the front of the wood, but it's just, instead of worrying about where it's going to be, I'm just going to paint the whole thing. Makes it a lot faster and a lot easier. I'm using a little plastic paint palette here, but you could also use a waxed paper plate or a paper plate or even a piece of wax paper. So I've got this all painted. So now I'm just going to set this one aside to dry. And again, what I've said with the paint sticks, if you want to paint them, you can. So you can see the craft sticks. These paint up also very easily. Go all the way around. This is another situation where you will be able to see the grains of the stick. So if you really wanted a light grainy area, you could paint it, take a paper towel, and gently brush some of that paint off. So you can see how that now shows a lot of the different grains. So that's a look too. Or if you really want it dark, paint it, maybe give it 2 coats. This is a messy craft, and I'm not wearing gloves. But that's your choice. If you want to paint all your sticks to give them a chance to dry, go ahead, do that, and then just lay them on a surface where they will be protected. If you are using scrapbook paper and you do not want to cover the back, that's how that would look. You could also paint the back of that paper if you wanted it a more uniform look, if you thought somebody was going to be looking at the turkey from behind. If not, don't paint it if you don't care. And the way I was able to get this feather, I took a piece of my scrapbook paper, and if you are having a pattern of paper, you can see this one has an all over print, so it doesn't really matter where I would cut. So does this one. But something like this pattern, you can see there's a lot lighter colors here. You have more of the roses showing here. So you might want to place where you think you want the tip to be. This one had, I wanted mainly just the browns of it, so I cut my from here. But then look at that pretty rose pattern if you wanted that to be on your tip, if you wanted this to be one full pattern. So just really look at your patterns to decide of your paper of what you want it to look like. These are what I chose. How my feathers are going to look with the different colors. And again, if you did not like the mismatch of feathers, you wanted them all to be the same, then choose whatever color paper that you like better and make them all the same. I wanted to have a variety. So I need one more of these. So the way I made my pattern is I actually took my stick, I laid it down on my piece of paper, and I drew I just traced my craft stick. So I knew where my craft stick was going to be. But I want it to be a pointed feather. So I'm going to make that point up. And I also want it to overlap. So I just went down about 1/4 of an inch around the side and then up. So then this line becomes my pattern, which is, now you can see, here's the tracing of my stick. And I just eyeballed it. I just did about 1/4 of an inch to the top, to the bottom, to the sides. I do want all of my feathers to be consistent, so I'm going to ignore those marks that I just made. And once you cut one, then you have a pattern. So now I am just going to trace around this one. And then now all my feathers are consistent. And then to try to use the majority of your paper so you don't waste it, go right to the edge. Once you cut one, then go right out to the edge. So then now you're going to cut along the line that you just created. And if they're a little off, it doesn't really matter. So now I have a pointed feather, and then they are all the same. You can embellish these now whichever way you want. I'm going to make that point a little bit pointier. One thing with washi tape, you know, washi tape comes in tons of different colors and patterns. This was a fall mix of washi tape. So looking at the colors that I have in my feathers, I planned on taking these two, which were plain. These are more patterned. So I'm going to leave those as is, but I'm going to embellish these with some of the washi tape, just because I think this is fun. This is a grouping that my library got for me. So this is what I had to choose from. I think that one's kind of cool. So I personally am not a big user of washi tape. I find that it really doesn't stick that well. It doesn't ever seem to stay for me. But let's see. I'm going to overlap it a bit. I think I'm going to put a piece up at the top, but I'm going to have it be where I can overlap it a bit. I do want that to go right to the top. With some overlap. So now I have that right at the top. Smooth it down. Fold that down. And fold that other little edge. So now I've got a cute little stripe right there. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some stripes with this one. I'm just going to eyeball where I want it. Give a little bit on each edge so I can just push that around. I'm not a measurer, so I don't care if my stripes are exactly even. You can, if you really want to be precise, go ahead, measure down with a ruler, mark off, you know, whatever inches or centimeters that you want. And then kind of give a look at your block of wood. Give a look as to how far up they're going to go, because depending on how tall you want your feathers to be and where you want them to go. So I think I'm going to do one more stripe. Put that right about there. Cut that. So there is a plaid striped feather. I think I want them all to be different. For my green, I'm going to go with this really pretty sunflower pattern. This is pretty. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right down the center of this one. I'm going to go all the way down. Fold it over so I really know that it stays. For my point, I'm going to cut a line right to my point, because now this way I can fold it over here, and now I can fold it over here, and I know that's connected. And I think that one's pretty. And then, like I said, even though these are the same, you know, lay your patterns out. Decide how you want. I'm using 10 craft sticks. I thought for this size craft stick, 10 went very well. I'm going to go 3 on the side, 3 on the side, and then 4 across the top. And I thought that looked really well. If you are using the other part of your craft stick, this, you know, can change on how many you have. So maybe, you know, 2 would only go there. So if I was using the craft stick, I think I would probably go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I would probably use 7 of those. But it's whatever you feel you want. If you were doing your block of wood, you know, with vertically, you know, just kind of move them around to see what looks good for you. So now, all right, what pattern do I want to use? I haven't decided if I want to make these exactly the same or if I want to have them be a little different. I think I will have somewhat those be the same. I don't want to put like patterns together. And then I would have 9 and 10. Well, I don't want 2 that I'm going to decorate with the washi tape. I don't want those 2 together. So I think maybe I will just kind of, you just play. Just, you know, lay them down, play around with what you think looks good. Just so you don't have this, if you're doing a different pattern, just so you don't have the same things right next to each other. So I think maybe not to make it look so busy, I will decide to do the same for each of these, just to have a little bit of consistency. Then it won't look I mean, it looks busy anyway, but maybe not so busy to have just a whole nother set of patterns, since I do somewhat have similar patterns. But, you know, it's however you want to make it, which is what's fun. It really gives you, this is a great project for kids to do. This could be a fun project to actually make on Thanksgiving. If you didn't want the mess, paint your pieces of wood beforehand and then let people decorate. Work off some of that turkey if you eat turkey for Thanksgiving. And then I think I am going to try to be the, you know, about a little bit the same. So I can use this other one as a guide to know where, basically roughly where I want those lines to be. They're somewhat similar. Again, I'm not worrying about being exact with those. And I think I want to add another little stripe in there. I like these polka dots. I love polka dots. There we go. Now I think that's too thick. So what I want to do with this one, I'm going to roughly just cut this in half. Again, I'm not too worried about exact measurements. This gives me a little bit of variation in my stripes. This was a wider one down here, so I'll put a wider piece there. So just have fun with it. You know, again, you know, your only limitations are what you can imagine. Easiest to cut is if you just stick it to your fingers. That way it'll stick. This I know is definitely well, maybe I will do one more. I'll do one more at the bottom here, just to kind of keep it consistent, depending on where that's going to be. And I think that will be fine. So now I need to cut these on this side. You can see how quickly this works up, because by the time I get finished with these feathers, that wood is primarily going to be dry, because the acrylic paint really dries quickly. It has the plastics in it. Oil paint, you know, you can work on it and work on it and work on it for days, and it won't be dry. But acrylic paint dries really quickly. You could also add rhinestones, gems, old pieces of jewelry, cutouts from a magazine, you know, whatever you think you want to decorate with. Go ahead and use it, because it's your project. Make it fun. So I like that. I think that's a great feather. So you could do, this is what it would look like if you just did all the very same thing. So you can see that's one look of it. this is a look of what it looks like with the different color feathers. So again, whatever your preference is, however fancy or uniform you want to make it, go ahead and do that. So now I think I am pretty much ready to attach these. I'm going to move this stuff out of the way. I did not color all my craft sticks beforehand. I had just the one, I had one previously done that was dry and one that's drying right now. So I'm going to show you if you didn't color them. I'm going to take my feather. I'm going to take my glue gun. Just give that some good glue. Lay that down. Smooth it out. The one thing I found working with the Gorilla Glue is this dries really quickly. So you can't really put a lot of glue on a big surface area because it's going to dry quickly. So that's what it looks like with the stick. This is what it would look like on the back. So if I really didn't, I think somebody might be seeing the back of that. Once you have your stick glued on, then just come through, paint your stick, paint the paper. Just going to go right over that tape. If you're doing this, just be really careful that you don't go on the other side of it. So then that way, that kind of gives you a little bit of a camouflage look from the back. Again, I really don't think, where I'm going to place this, I don't think anybody is going to be looking at it from the back because I'm going to have it right up against the wall. So I think that would be fine. So then these would be ready to glue on. I'm just going to set that one aside because it is wet. I am not going to paint the backs of the other ones. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the time to glue my sticks. Again, I'm just kind of drizzling this around, laying it down. Really give it a good push to make sure that adheres. We're not using the Gorilla Glue. We're not worrying about the Gorilla Glue for the paper to the stick. It's the Gorilla Glue to take the stick to the wood. That's really what you need it for. And again, if you were not going to use scrapbook paper, that's really the important part of the Gorilla Glue to the wood, because then you are gluing wood to wood on that, and then that's really going to give you that good bond. Here we're doing paper to wood, but again, I'm just using the Gorilla Glue for everything. So if you're doing wood to wood, you really need to use the Gorilla Glue. If you are doing paper to wood, you could get away maybe with hot glue, but then you remember you have to glue your neck down as well. You could tie a ribbon around it. That would keep it on there, but It's interesting. This one was a little cracked, because again, these all come from China. Not the best quality. Not that they don't do good work, but just sometimes things are a little off. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on that, just because I don't want that crack to keep going down. So just coating that a little bit, that's going to stop that from cracking down. So in case you have any of those like that, that's something that you can do. I'm going to speed this part up. While I had paused the camera and went through and sped up gluing all of those on, I decided that for demonstration for my class, I really wanted to have one that showed all the same papers, and I really liked this one. So I ended up taking the 2 out of the first mix that I made, and I made more of that one to go on one, so it'll be completely one solid same pattern, and then ended up making these 2 to add to my multicolored pattern. And I have laid out my strips of the way that I want to glue them on. But first, let's make the turkey's face. To me, all the personality and the whimsy comes from the face. So I just took a pad of paper and I started to draw little ideas of what I wanted for a face. Basically, it's simple. You're going to do a triangle. Do your triangle for your beak, and then just add 2 large circles right on top. Kind of like a double dip ice cream cone side to side. And then I decided I wanted the little red wobbler, gobbler, whatever those are called, waddle. So I'm just going to draw wavy line like that. Come around, do another wavy line and connect it. So this I will paint red. That will be the gobbler. This, for the triangle, you can either paint it orange or yellow, or I'm going to use a piece of the washi tape. And then for the eyes, I'm going to paint those white. And then it's basically, which way do you want your turkey to be looking? Do you want it straight on, looking sideways, looking up, looking cross-eyed, looking crazy-eyed? So, you really can see, how you can give the personality to your turkey just by the way that you're going to draw the eyes. So that kind of gives you some examples of what they're going to look like. Now you can take a marker, you can take paint pens. I happen to have some paint pens handy, so I am going to use those, and I am going to use, as I said, a little piece of the washi tape to make the nose. So I basically just want to see, well, how big do I want my beak to be? Let's go with that. And then if I decide, I can put this on, because that's the nice thing about washi tape. You can put it on, take it off. So if I decide, I'm going to keep that be the neck. Now, if that looks good, then I can turn that into a triangle. If I think it needs to be thinner, I could change that then. But I think that's okay. The easiest way to make a triangle, fold it in half. And then just cut down at a diagonal. So then I know both of my edges are even. So I've painted my stick on both sides. I'm going to see which side I want. I'm going to go with this side. Again, this is going to be my neck, so I want to move up a little bit from there. And I'm just going to place that right on there. I'm going to take my paint pen. When you're using paint pens, you usually have to prime it, go up and down a few times, hold it down just to get the paint flowing. So now I'm going to draw his eyes. And again, just 2 circles. I want them touching. You can draw your eyes any way you want. So I have my eyes. I'm going to fill those in now. I'm just going to hold my paint pen down. The easiest way to do that, hold it down. If you're using paint pen, get a blob. And that way you can just fill it in. Just going to make sure that goes all the way through. Do another blob. Spread that around. There we go. So now we have 2 eyes and the nose. I'm going to take my red. That's going to be the gobbler. And again, as I said, I'm just going to draw a wavy line, come around, connect. Now I'm going to fill in. Bring it right up next to that triangle. And there we have that part. Now I'm just going to let that dry for a little bit before I put the black for the eyes, because I want that to really dry. I don't want that to blend together. So I'm just going to pause that for a second. Now I want to decorate this. I want the neck to be a little bit more defined. You can see that's what it will look like up against there. It's really kind of hard to see the neck edge. So I think what I'm going to do is I have some lace. I've cut a small little piece that I'm going to put around his neck. So I'm just going to put some glue. Lay that there. Turn it around. Bring that lace down and over. And again, use the tools you have. I was using a pencil before to draw. You can use that. You can use those silicone tips if you have those. And now I've got a cute little piece of lace there. For me, that's not enough because more is more for me. I want to add a bow. I like using twine. Twine is a lot of fun. You can also use raffia, whatever you want to do, or just use the lace. I'm also going to end up using a button. You could also just put a button on there if you'd like, but I want to add a bow to it. So I'm just going to take my piece of twine and I'm going to do a loop. I'm going to do another loop. Tie those 2 loops together. Pull. Now I'm going to adjust the size that I want. Tighten that up. I think that's a good size. I think that's a good size. And I'm just going to trim the ends. And then I'll see if I like that. And I do. So I'm going to put a little dab of glue. Put that bow down. Hold it in the place. At first I thought I wanted to use the raffia as a bow, but after I made a bow, it was just a bit too thick. But, you know, another good look, but if I was using just the raffia, but since I had the lace underneath, I wanted that lace to be shown. So that's why I think the twine just gives it a little bit more of a gentle look. I'm also going to use a button. So now I'm going to just put another drop of glue right in the center. I'm going to put my button. Just going to hold it a little bit. I want it to stay up. I didn't cut the shank off. No, I like the 3D part of that. So now let's start gluing the feathers on. So I'm going to take my wood, decide what side you want to be the front. I like the striations there, so I'm going to turn that over. I'm going to let that be my front. I've laid out my feathers the way I want them. So now I'm going to just start gluing them on. And I'm going to do that from the back. I'm going to go just probably about an inch of glue. So for the two bottom feathers, I want those to be flat, straight out. So again, just about an inch, coming in about an inch, inch and a half. There you can see I have two feathers. Just wanted those to be straight down. So now I'm going to go to my next one. And I think what I'm going to do is put 3 on the bottom and 4 across the top. So take my other one. You can overlap. Again, I do not plan on having anybody see my backside of this. And I personally, just so I have spacing correct, I'm going to go one side, then the other side, just so I'm still kind of doing them the same way, getting them on there the same. And then I ended up also, before I just had stripes, I put one strip down, and then I put some stripes going that way too. I thought that looked good. So now I'm going to do this next one. And go right up kind of to the corner. Do the same with this. So you can see from the back, if you wanted that to show, I painted it. You could paint it again to make sure, you know, you're covering your washi tape, or put another piece of paper behind it. But I really don't care what it looks like from the back. So again, this is what that's looking like. Glue strings everywhere. Now I'm going to go 4 across the top. Going to overlap those two. Same over here. Overlap those two. Overlapping that. And bringing that one up. So that's, again, the nice thing with using the glue gun is you can see I didn't lay them directly onto the wood. I kind of overlapped a bit. And the glue will fill that all in. Just pushing down, making sure they're covered. And again, glue guns dry very quickly. So there I have the face of the turkey. Now I'm ready. I believe that's dry enough. I'm going to do my eyes. I think I'm going to go straight looking on. And there you can see the face for the turkey. I'm going to let that sit and dry for a little bit so the eyes don't run. All right, let's glue this on. Now remember, when you're gluing, that sticks up. So you don't want to put glue on that part. Glue only on the wood part. So it's pretty much to the neck. So we're going to get some glue on there. I'm just going to go right up to it. Right in the center. I'm going to set it down. Hold it down. Guys, get some oozing, so get that off right away so you don't chip your paint before. If it really gets on there good, it'll chip a little bit, but you can always touch up. And there is our finished turkey. If you want to cover the back, again, remember you could paint all of that over. You could put another piece of paper over it. But mine is going to go up against a wall. So here's the completed turkey. You can see all the different types of feathers, its face. This is the other one that I made. This shows the difference between having all the feathers be the same color as opposed to the collaged type. So this is what they all look like that way. And you can see the face really does give the personality of the turkey. Here you can see I used washi tape for the neck, the beak, and I even did washi tape for the wattle. So different looks for each one. So, you know, whatever type of paper or paints that you want to use, go ahead and have fun. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you make a few turkeys. Until next time, this was Kimberly Canale, Crafting with Kimberly. Thank you.